Well, what's up, guys? What I would come on to do a little video this afternoon, or this evening. Oh, but I got that over. Talking about the reported release date for the PlayStation 6. I've seen some reports that the new console itself is going to be coming out in. Let me try and reposition my camera. That's it. It's I keep falling over every time I position it, kind of falls over. That's it, should be fine now. They'll be able to be getting a brand new console in 2027. So in around 2.5 years time, we will be getting a new PlayStation console. To me, to be honest with you, that kind of makes sense. You know, because obviously it's always been that kind of 7 year gap between the release of obviously new consoles. Obviously, we had the PS5 obviously come out in 2020, so it would make sense that in 7 years, that 7 years from now, in 2027, we get obviously the PlayStation 6, which would obviously,
Wednesday nights,
which would be about 2 years from now, or 2.5 years from now, we get the PlayStation 6. I mean, obviously, I don't know if I would definitely want to get that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's crazy to think that the PlayStation 5 itself has been out for, nearly 5 years. Obviously, this year does mark that the fifth anniversary of the console being released. Obviously, the console was released, obviously a couple of years ago. Obviously, it was released in, obviously 2020. Now here we are, 5 years down the line. It is kind of crazy to think it's been that long since we've had a new console. I mean, 5 years. Where's that time gone? That time's gone crazily fast. 5 years since then. Wow. I remember when obviously when I first started seeing like the adverts and stuff for the PS5 and the trailers and the big reveal. I was like, yeah, I definitely need that. I definitely will want to get that console. I didn't know if my mum and dad were going to get it, but they did. I remember when obviously we ordered it, we were waiting for it to and it didn't turn up on the day that it was supposed to turn up. And I remember panicking a little bit because I'd seen a lot of people were still waiting for that console. I was hoping that I was going to get mine before Christmas. Obviously, 2020 lockdown, 20 Christmas 2020 was obviously lockdown Christmas. The Christmas that we weren't able to spend, time with our families and things like that. So that my PS5 getting here before Christmas, but it's going to cheer me up. And thankfully it did arrive before Christmas. I'd also seen stories of people saying that they'd had their console stolen by the people like the delivery drivers and things like that. So it's kind of a crazy time. Well, I did get it. Obviously 2 days later than it was supposed to turn up. But yeah, I mean the PlayStation 5. Crazy to think it's been, that long. I still remember, when I first got the PlayStation 4, and that was what, it was 2014 I got that. Yeah, it was 2014, so we're talking 11 years. And obviously the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were released in 2012 and 2013, so that's 12 years. I mean, obviously I remember we'd gone out in the January sales, early, in 2014. And we went past the CES, and I saw that they had the PS4 and Xbox One consoles in the window. Now, at the time, I sort of decided that for my birthday that year, I wanted an Xbox One. I had no, I hadn't really thought about getting the PlayStation 4. I had no intention of getting the PlayStation 4 as I previously had the Xbox 360. So it kind of made more sense for me to go from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. But one of my teachers from school, they got an Xbox One, and the teacher was telling my mum about how they'd had there were some problems with it, and obviously it wasn't, certain games weren't working and things like that. So my mum said to me, maybe it'd be a safer idea for you to get the PS5, which is what I did. I got the PS5, or the PS4 instead, rather. Um, Now, obviously, I've always had the PS5, the PS4, like the standard PS4. But recently, I had to order a new one. Because I had my uncle's one and that stopped working. So I ordered a new one. I got the PlayStation 4 Slim. I also had to order myself a brand new external hard drive for the PlayStation 4. The one that I got was the Somnix 4GB, the 4TB one. That came from Amazon. Now, if you're not, I think that you should definitely get an external storage hard drive for your PS4 because obviously it would be a godsend. I mean, before I've gone for the 2 TB ones before. I mean, yeah, they are a little bit cheaper than the other ones, but they don't really have a lot of storage space on them, which is why it's best to go for something like a 4 or above because there's more storage. But also the 4 TB ones and above, they're more expensive. Like the 4 TB one, like the 4 TB Somnix external hard drive, this was the one I ordered from Amazon. Was 75 quid. But if you were to go above that, go for like maybe a 5 TB or an 8 TB, you'd be looking at like over 100 quid. So it's probably best to go for the 4 TB one. If you're looking to spend less than 100 quid, go for that one because it would give you more storage. It depends. I think it all really depends on how many games you're looking to install and the size of the games in general, like how much storage space those games actually require. Obviously if you're not looking to install too many games or the games are relatively small, you might not need to actually go for the 4 TB hard drive, like external hard drive. But if you're looking to install a lot of games, or you're looking to install games that are quite big in size and require a lot of storage space, it might be best to go for a 4 TB external hard drive or a bigger one than that. As I said, it all depends on how many games you're looking to install and the size of those games, like how much storage space those games actually require. I kind of think it's crazy with the PS4 and the PS5. Like when you had the PS3 and the PS2, like you didn't have to install games and things like that. I think you could basically play games as soon as you put them in the console. You didn't have to worry about waiting for the games to install. Like that's the only positive things about like the PS2 and the PS3 though. Is at least you didn't have to wait for like a few hours for the game to install it. Because you didn't need that. But with the PS4 and the PS5, the games have needed to be installed before you can actually play them. Like, okay. Um, um, I think for me, getting a 4 TB external hard drive has worked out quite well because I've been able to install a lot of games. Because there were a lot of games that I wanted to, install. Um, but I would have needed a lot of storage space for them. And thankfully, I had the required amount of storage space that I needed for them on this, thanks to this external hard drive. I think for me, like for people like me, the external hard drive has been, the external hard drive has been, a godsend, and I think that external hard drives are the best thing to get. They are, they're definitely a worthwhile purchase. I would say, they're probably not best to go for one that's above 8 TB. It probably won't work, and I think it has to be a maximum of 8 TB. So if you went for something like a 10 TB or a 16 TB, which you can get, but they're over like 200 quid, like the 10, one is like, I think the 10 TB one is about 200 quid, and 16 TB external hard drive is over 300 quid. But I don't know if the PS4 would actually take external hard drives of that size. because obviously, I think it has to be a maximum 8, I think it's maximum 8, 8 terabytes. So you'd probably be wasting your money. But I mean, obviously for me, the PS4, like the 4 terabyte one has been good enough for me. I've been able to install a lot of games on it, on this external hard drive, so it's been a real godsend. I mean, obviously, in terms of the PS6, I'm often wondering. I've been thinking about that recently. I've been thinking like, I wonder what it's gonna look like. I wonder if it's gonna be like bigger than the PS, I wonder if it's gonna be like bigger than the um than the PS5, or like if it's gonna be around the same size as the PS5. I would assume maybe it is. I would assume maybe it's gonna be bigger than that. I mean, I'm assuming it's gonna be bigger than that. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Um, I mean, you wonder what games are gonna look like on that one as well. Like, jeez. I mean, how do graphics get any more realistic than they currently are on the PS5? I don't think they could do that. I don't see how the graphics would get any more realistic than they are now. I mean, I'm excited to see what lies ahead with the PlayStation 6. Let's see what happens in 2027. I think it's very high. I think that, I wouldn't completely rule it out. I would say it's probably highly likely that we do get a PlayStation 6 in 2027, because obviously it would be 7 years since the PS5 came out. I don't see that as being something that will ever change. I don't think I don't think Sony will ever change that, because I haven't really seen anyone saying that it needs to be changed. You know, I think they would only um I think I think they would only really change that if they knew that people had an issue with it, or if they knew that people weren't and didn't like that. But I don't personally really have a problem with them releasing consoles every 7 years. I think it is what it is. You kind of gotten used to that now, like knowing that every 7 years there's gonna be a new console. So you would expect the PlayStation 8 to probably be coming out around 2034. You know, is obviously it would be it would be that 7 year gap. Um, I also wonder like how much it's going to cost. Like, is it going to cost more than what the PlayStation 5 did, or is it going to be around a similar price to the PlayStation 5? I remember when, this, like, how bad it was on eBay. Like, people, like, scalpers on eBay when the PS5 first came out. Like, the amount of money that people were charging for them on eBay, when you consider the prices that the shops were charging for them. Like, people were charging double, triple, or even quadruple that on eBay, And sometimes you have to be careful, because you can pay that, quite a large amount of money, but you might even always get what you paid for. A lot of people had ordered consoles on eBay and didn't get what they paid, which is why you've got to be careful. I mean, it's not. I mean, obviously, that's why we didn't buy my PS5 from eBay, because it obviously would have been a lot of money to lose if we'd ordered one from there and we didn't get what we didn't get the PS5 that I ordered. Um, when it comes to like consoles and things like that, I always tend to order them from Amazon, or from like the proper shops, rather than buying them from eBay. I mean, I don't have a problem with buying video games from eBay if you're not paying that much money, and you're not, if you don't get the game that you paid for, you're not losing a lot of money, you know. Um, but I think it's too risky to buy things like consoles and stuff from there. I think it's always better to buy them from proper shops and things like that. Um, Same. I mean, obviously, I would definitely say that, you're looking for an external hard drive, get them from the shop as well, rather than from eBay. At least if you get an external hard drive from like from Amazon and whatnot, it's gonna work. For definitely, it's gonna work. Amazon, I wouldn't say that Amazon really sell things that don't work. That's what I'm gonna say. So yeah, let's see what happens in 2027. I'll see you for another video soon. Bye bye.